This could either be like a great poll or be like so embarrassing for me.
Oh, here we go. High risk, high reward. What do we got? Welcome to Shoulda Books, the podcast about all the books you should have read by now. My name is Jonathan, and today I am talking to MJ Smith. MJ is a live streamer. She works for the Try Guys in the post-production department. That's how we met. She's also, I'll say it, she is one of the most interesting people that I've ever met, and that's because she is one of the most interested people I've ever met. She has so many interests, so many hobbies. We get into that in this episode. It's a good time. Unfortunately, I have to do a mea culpa here. Frankly, I fucked up the first 20 minutes of the video. This is more in the weeds than you need, but I record these episodes on my phone visually. That's how we get this wonderful lo-fi aesthetic that you all know and tolerate. And turns out sometimes that can really bite you in the dang ass because the first 20 minutes just straight up didn't record. So what I have done instead for those missing minutes of footage is film some beautiful footage of Los Angeles freeways. So there's at least something moving on your screen for those 20 minutes until a little voice in my head said, "Hey, Jonathan, maybe you should go check the recording." And I did and realized it wasn't recording, and I was very upset. But we got through it, and I think despite all of that, it's still a pretty good episode, and I think you're going to enjoy it. But first, we are doing Jane Eyre over on the Shoulda Book Club. You can follow along on Fable. And on the 17th of February, there is going to be an episode about Wuthering Heights. There's going to be extra details about this episode about Wuthering Heights, the film, not the book. We already did the book last year, back when this was a non-independent podcast. But the film, Wuthering Heights, comes out. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out tomorrow. So on Tuesday, on the 17th, there's going to be an episode. But I'm not going to say anything beyond that because there's some details with that episode that are going to be rather interesting, I think. And perhaps you will too. Also, additionally, this weekend, November. What? November? Where did that come from? February. This February 15th, which is this Sunday, I want to give a big shout out to friend of the show, former guest, my friend, Miles Bonsignore. He is doing a 24-hour live stream. That's right, 24 hours, 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. in support of Creators Against ICE, which is raising money for the National Immigration Law Center. This is money that is going to help families who are frankly being terrorized by ICE, and they need our help, they need our support, and I think it's amazing that Miles is doing this, and you can find the link to that down in the description. So if you're able to, please support, and you can find all of that information down in the description. So that was a lot of housekeeping. Again, I'm so sorry about the video, and I'm also so sorry to our audio listeners for having to deal with this. I could make a different, intro for y'all, but there's limited bandwidth. So anyway, here is the episode with MJ Smith. I hope you enjoy it. Let's hit the books. MJ Smith.
Thank you, Jonathan,
Welcome
for having me.
To Shoulda Books. Welcome back.
Welcome
perhaps?
back. Yeah. This is officially my second time on, I think. First time with Miles for Lord of the Flies.
That's right. Yeah, you did Lord of the Flies with Miles, and no, you did Bell Jar.
Oh, man. Okay,
well.
So this is my third time then.
This is your third time.
Okay.
First time in the new era.
First time
in the new era.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot...
Our millennial white era.
Look. The dining room studio is...
the dye studio.
Is of all the studios, it's one of them.
That's correct.
And we're making the best that we can here. And acoustically, I have some notes. Aesthetically, I have some notes, but it gets the job done.
Hey, a podcast is all about the people, the heart. Honestly, all your audio listeners.
I'm glad you said that.
All of your audio listeners aren't going to care.
They're not going to care.
They're not going to care.
But I'll tell you what I care about is I'm excited to hear what books you brought, because I think you might be, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, the most eclectic person that I know. I mean, just in terms of like hobbies, because people don't
Yeah.
really have hobbies these days. I mean,
And it's because I took all of them.
it's because you're doing
I
all.
took every single one.
You do. Let's see which ones I can remember off the top of my head. You do archery.
I do.
You do leather work.
Yeah.
You do metal work. You
little
make
bit.
your own like armor, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I think the best way to sum it up is back at Try Guys, there was a time where we did a video with a hydraulic press. And I think Jack and I were tasked with just getting rid of the damn thing. And you were like, oh, I can use that.
Oh, I can take it.
And we're like, you can use that?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you end up using it for?
It's currently a book press.
Okay, I'll add that to the list.
Book binding has been another hobby.
What have you been binding?
So I have been pressing a couple things, actually. I have mostly this is for book binding, but I do have some flowers that I have been pressing. Whenever I get a bouquet, I put a new flower in, which is fun. But right now I'm doing some book binding. I have this is for my sister, and I think this episode will be out after I've given it to her.
Okay,
So it's
I certainly
okay.
hope so.
It's okay if I say this. But I have embroidered on a piece of cloth that I dyed myself.
Okay, we'll have a little counter going for tasks and hobbies.
I embroidered on it a little honeybee because she loves honeybees. She like has so many videos of her like in her garden with tons of flowers around, and she's like petting the backs of like fuzzy little bees. It's so cute. So I embroidered a bee onto it for her, and I've repurposed an old notebook, ripped off the covers, and I'm in the process of like pressing my embroidered like cloth piece onto like it's like stock. It's like not cardboard stock. It's a little bit harder than that.
Okay.
But like you take that, you glue it, you press it.
Incredible.
And that's how. So I'm in the process of like I'm new at. To be clear, this is a newer hobby. So I'm learning.
No one said you were good at any of these things. I just said that you did them.
I do a lot of them.
If you had to pick one of these many hobbies, which one would you pick as your favorite?
As my favorite.
Right here on the spot. In the dining room studio.
I think of all the things that I do and have done most of, it's got to be like the sewing embroidery.
Okay.
It's like a really interesting thing to do, like textile wise, or doing any crafts with textiles, because they can be really manipulatable.
Yeah. We'll allow
easily manipulated.
Yeah.
The cool thing is like I've sseen sculptures made out of fabric. I've seen like there's so much that can be done mending wise. Like there are like I'm blanking on the name. I think it's like it's not.
I'm certainly not going to know it.
Well, there's a specific type of like Japanese mending that they used to do on denim, where it's like cross stitching in white, and it looks really cool. It's like a very particular style. And there's so many ways to like prolong your garments and do interesting and beautiful things. I'm just tired of like, once again, not to comment on like where we are, but like,
you need to. But like, the studio looks how it looks.
That's so. But I'm saying like so many places have decided like white and gray is like what we. I was reading something about this about how people are like our cars aren't colorful anymore, our homes aren't colorful anymore, and it's because people feel a lack of ownership because we're leasing everything or renting everything, and it's just so. We can't justify making things personal anymore. And that was like, I know it sounds simple, but it was honestly a revelation where I was like, oh, this is why I don't feel motivated to like do so many things in my place to make it permanent. It's why I took almost a full year to decorate my room. Like,
oh, wow,
when
that's crazy. I definitely never have done that. Wow.
But like, that's like in juxtaposition to people I know who are like, oh, I moved into a place and like I was out of the boxes in like a month or two. And I was like, that's crazy. I still am unpacking things.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So just finding, to harken this all back to like embroidery and stuff, I just found that to be like a really nice way to personalize things and add little touches and create a little bit of whimsy and a little bit of magic into a lot of things. And it's led me to other hobbies that are adjacent, like cosplaying and different types of like Renaissance garb and stuff. So I think to sum it all up, it all comes back to me with like sewing and embroidery, because it was also one of the first things I learned how to do.
Right, because you part of the lore is you worked at a dress shop.
Yes.
In Pennsylvania.
No, this is in Boston.
Sorry,
this is college.
Oh, sorry. We'll fix that in post. So yeah,
Boston.
In Boston. And I
so
maybe
many stories.
We'll find some places to perhaps weave those stories. I'm sorry. It's the millennial.
Sensible chuckle.
It's the millennial white. But
You're a millennial.
I am a millennial white. So books.
Books.
Let's get into.
Yeah, I forgot what this podcast was.
Yeah, we're just gabbing. But yeah, the 3 books that you think everyone should read. Mm-hmm. What do you got for us?
Okay, so I have to preface this by coming for Kaylin's neck.
Oh, yes. Let's start some freaking beef.
Let's start some beef. If anything, I'm going to get you engagement, Jonathan.
And this is why I brought you on. This is why you're the ringer.
Thank you. I just want to say, Kaylin, how dare you choose Song of Achilles? I read that book first. You asked me if you should read it, and I said, yes, you have got to. And then you come on a show, and you tell Jonathan that it has to be read, and it's my thing.
Yeah, and
sorry, I'm getting emotional. How dare you?
I was gonna read it because Kaylin recommended it, but now that you're saying it, maybe I don't know.
You think that you shouldn't read it because I recommended it? How dare you?
No, it sounded lovely. It sounded amazing.
It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I have on one of my books that I can talk about is sort of like my instead of, I probably would have done both of them if I could have, but it is sort of my answer to not having Song of Achilles. It is another queer novel. We'll just get into it.
Okay, let's just do it.
I have it with me.
Ooh, what do we got?
This is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin.
Hell yes.
Have you read it?
I have not.
You should.
I've read Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. Absolutely loved it.
Awesome.
And have been wanting to read more of his. And I know that like this is one of his most popular, one of his most enduring ones. So
yes,
let's tell me about it. Why this book?
Okay, well, if you're going to read it, do you want me to refrain from like ending spoilers?
Let's refrain from spoilers.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I can do that. So first, I'll give a history, or a little bit of my history with it, which is I read this for the first time when I was in college, which was the prime time of me sort of being like, okay, being gay can be a little bit more part of my personality. Like I think in high school, I was like part of the gay straight alliance, but I was like on the straight side because I didn't know. I was like, I just won't say which I am, and people.
I'm on the alliance side.
I am the ally. Yeah. But so I was like, I wasn't fully comfortable with myself, and I don't think most people are prior to college or like getting out there and learning more about themselves. So reading this book, I read it in part of my honors course, humble brag.
Okay, nice. I love how you slipped that in there.
I read it as part of my honors course, which actually 2 of my books, I don't want to like sing praises to the honors course at Emerson College because like, honestly, Emerson, not that they've been in hot water lately, but they haven't been in the best light.
Interesting.
So not to praise it, don't go there. Don't go. Not worth your money, probably. But my Emerson or my honors course, I think genuinely like gave me a lot of great books and allowed me to introspect a lot more than I would have without it. So I do have to, I honor it in my memory.
You got to give the devil his due.
It's true.
Was this like honors English 101?
This was part of, so Emerson had this weird thing. I'll try and give it a long and the short of this.
I'm sorry I asked. Okay,
basically,
what sort of nerdy shit they got going on over there?
Basically, if you wrote your essay like well enough and applied for it, you could be part of essentially like a full 4-year program that was your honors course. I wasn't part of like a specific class. It was just you would take these certain classes in your entire 4 years that would serve the honors requirement.
And
it ended in a thesis. Like that's what it did. Yeah. So nothing too out of the ordinary, but it wasn't a specific class. This was just one of we had like a few literature classes, but I also had like an ethics class and one science class, which is weird at a film school. But like Oh,
you don't need that shit.
I needed it. I was going crazy. I needed math.
I need something with an objective answer, or this subjective bullshit is driving me crazy.
I mean, like, yeah.
I do see the appeal. The older I get, the more I'm just like, oh yeah. I question where there is just an answer that is correct. Is like, there's something nice to that. But then
you get into like deeper science and deeper math, and you realize actually there aren't real answers to any of these things. You think 1 + 1 is 2. It's not.
It's actually not.
It's actually not.
Shout out George Orwell. Okay, so honors Emerson. Don't go there.
Don't go there.
But that course did introduce you to this book.
Yes. So I read Giovanni's Room first in this class, which was kind of funny because it's weird to like reckon with your sexuality on like school time. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very like, it became a very personal book, but then having to talk about it with my peers like put me in a very new position, which is where I was attempting to like, you know, I could talk about it and analyze it, but I could feel myself wanting to talk about personal anecdotes and sort of bring some of me into it. And that was scary. And I think that it did push me to accept myself more and then be more able to discuss openly with other people. Not that you ever have to, but like I was looking for community, and I was looking for the ability to feel confident in myself and be able to say I'm queer, or I resonate with the characters in this book. So it was scary to do that, but I found a place through this book to feel able to share myself more like freely and openly.
Yeah.
So that's the abstract.
That's beautiful.
I really love this book. And I reread it recently actually for my own personal book club.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It was like maybe 6 months ago. So semi-recently.
Real quick, tell me about your book club.
My book club is, honestly, it's currently on hiatus.
Okay.
But I think it's coming back in the new year because a friend moved back into town.
Oh,
and she was one of the like main core members. But it was just me and I think 5 or 6 of my friends, and we would all rotate in choosing a book. And it was fun. Actually, Giovanni's Room was James's pick. James is my partner.
Yeah.
So that was very cute.
What up, James?
What up, James? He chose this book, and I didn't tell him that I had read it, so it was cool.
Really?
That
that's fun.
We both. I got to find out like why he was interested in it, and we got to have good conversations about it also with all of our friends.
Yeah.
So book club has been awesome. I have one of my friends made us personalized bookmarks with like all of the books we read in the first year. It was really cute. And one of all of my friends work in film. Like most of them work in props. It seems because my other friend made us little pins for every book.
That's so cool.
It was
honestly
really cute.
One of the coolest things about living in Los Angeles is having friends who work in the art departments of film and TV show, because they can just
fabricate whatever.
Fabricate anything. So so you read this recently for your book club.
Yes.
What was it like coming back to this book years after reading it the first time?
I think it was honestly a bit more painful.
Really?
Interestingly enough, I think I was further removed. So the main character is like his name is David, and he is a guy reckoning with his sexuality. It's like I forget the era of the book, but I think it's in like the 50s or 60s.
Okay. And
he is an American, and he and his father have sort of a contentious relationship. He moves to Paris. He's kind of trying to find himself. He's very much a sleazeball in the sense that he's like taking money from his dad, blowing it all the time,
what's the problem? Sounds fucking cool.
I mean, who's to say maybe his dad deserves it? But like, I think that it's clear that the book is trying to paint him as like troubled. He's like, he's conflicted about himself. He feels very like ashamed tremendously about like being gay. He has like sort of a fiance, like they meet. Her name is Hella, and he asks her to marry him. Okay. This is like early in the book. He's like, let's get married, and she's like, fuck no. And she's like, I'm not sure right now. I'm going to Spain to sort of figure myself out. Oh. So she leaves, and they like don't talk for many months, and that's like when most of the story is occurring, is like when they're apart.
Oh, interesting.
But he's like, well, clearly I'm straight because like I have this fiance, but like also I'm gonna kind of fuck a lot of dudes on the side. Like he's like really struggling with living authentically as himself. And the first time I read that, I really was like, oh wow, like yeah, I get it. I get sort of being uncomfortable with this part of yourself, and really sympathizing with the main character, and I still do. But the second time I read it, I think I was a little embarrassed, I guess, because I would look at him and it hit even harder this time, like how really cruel he is all the time to a lot of people. He is like often speaking down towards the other gay people in his community who are lifting him up, like lending him money, giving him a place to stay, being like, he's like clearly a tremendously toxic person. And not, other people certainly are in the book. There's a lot of like grayness in terms of morality, but it was like so striking to me on my second read. Like, this guy's like really mean, and it reminded me of like being really mean when I was younger. I don't think that I was like, a bully or like truly like, I never like attempted to bring other people down. But if anybody was like even a little bit rude to me or even a little bit snarky, I came back like 10 times. I was ferocious. I was like very angry when I felt ashamed or when people would comment about like, if I acted a little strange, and I know a lot of the queer audience here maybe can sort of commiserate with me, but like when you don't really know what's going on with yourself, like you're a weird kid, like you act weird and you just are weird when you're younger, and other people pick up on that and then are like, willing to prod you and poke you. And so like some people shirk and some people become angry. And I think I was more the latter. So I could see myself in David a lot, embarrassingly, where I was like, yeah, I mean, like, I was frustrated with myself and I was mad that I couldn't make sense of myself. And I was upset that like, even to this day, it's almost a little difficult to be like, yeah, like I'm queer, I'm gay. Like I've never said it to my parents. Technically, I've never like, the first time that I ever said it like out loud was on a Try Guys episode.
Really?
Yeah, the Try Guys gay trivia. First time I ever said I was gay.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Wow. I mean, I was there. I was in the room.
Yeah, you were.
I feel honored.
Momentous moment.
Yeah.
So I like just felt very repressed for a really long time for religious reasons, for community reasons.
Yeah.
So many things that like made it difficult. And so I think that was a big theme in Giovanni's room that I just, grabbed onto. I was like, this is clearly something that James Baldwin struggled with, him even more so because he has like, he lived in a completely different era than I did. Certainly more shame. He is like a black man in the 50s. Like, I remember I was preparing for this because I haven't read this in ages. So I was like going through all my Spark notes and stuff. And I saw an interview of him where somebody asked him like, I'll butcher the phrasing, but essentially he was like, so, you're a young gay, he said, a young black homosexual something. And some people would say like, how much more press can you get? And he was like, I think I won the jackpot. Like I did it. Like this is, he has as many like lenses through which to look at things as like, you kind of can.
Oh, wow.
So I think that like, although he certainly had a lot to like work through as he did in the book Giovanni's Room, I think he is the man who like, nobody could do it better than him.
Yeah.
So I am a big fan of James Baldwin. I want to read more of his books.
I definitely do. I've seen a lot of interviews with him. I saw the documentary that came out. I was going to say relatively recently, and then realized I think it came out in 2016, which is 10 years ago. So, but he was just, we don't have to linger on that. He was just such an eloquent speaker.
So
and
much.
it's amazing. Like there's brilliant writers who you watch an interview with them and you're like, oh, they're just like me.
Quippy
like,
and fun.
Or no, I was going to say like they're not that articulate. They say a lot of ums and uhs. See, like I just did. But Baldwin, man, he just never...
mellifluous motherfucker.
Oh,
that guy could lull like a room into like compliance. He was so... I was captivated in like the couple interviews that I watched. So I agree.
So if you haven't, do yourself a favor, go on a YouTube binge of that.
Yes.
I'm very excited to read this book. It's gonna happen at some point. Maybe it's already happened. Who knows? That's the magic of showbiz, I guess. What's next?
Right. So I'm realizing now, I was thinking about this just prior to us starting to record, and I think that like a theme of the books that I've brought are like accidentally all about anger. Hey, interestingly.
No, I think honestly, like this is why I love this format is because like you ask someone, what are the 3 books you think everyone should read? And it gets like, gives you a glimpse into who they are. And you're just clearly just such an angry person.
I'm furious.
So it's amazing. No, so that's interesting. So you're looking at the books, which we'll get to in a second. But how do you feel about realizing that? Because like I joke about it. I don't like. No, I think you are very passionate, and I've seen you get angry. But like I don't think that MJ's an angry person.
I think the only time I ever got truly angry was when a coworker called, and I'm going to start the drama over again. When a coworker called a Cheeto a chip. And I'd like you all to get in the fucking comments and you tell me if you think a Cheeto is a chip. Because let me tell you, it's fucking not. And I want you to know that I reached out to fucking Cheetos corporate to confirm this. Anyway.
You're not going to win this argument.
You're not.
I would be thrilled if you had this argument just for the sake of the fucking engagement. But you're not going to to beat MJ. So
I was like screaming about this for 3 days on set.
I remember,
I was asking every single person that walked up to me. I was just like, what do you think? Huh?
Yeah. You were doing it during the middle of takes. We were like, MJ, please, we're rolling. It was quite the era. But sound off in the comments.
I'll respond to every single one personally and tell you why you're
real quick, I'm just gonna check. I'm also gonna close the window because I heard like car go by. Okay, so I'm trying to lean into the kind of lo-fi nature of this production here in the beautiful, incredibly minimal in a fun millennial way dining room studio, and I fucked up the video recording, so
that's fine. If you forgive Jonathan, say so in the comments.
You know what? Honestly, MJ, thank you. Yeah. Maybe one day we'll graduate from this, beautiful, beautiful studio. But anyway, so let me know if you forgive me in the comments, and also let me know if you think a Cheeto is a chip.
Which it's not.
It's not.
It's not. I think it's they sent me specifically what they call it. It's like a croquette or something. Which
fuck off. Croquette?
That's what they said it was in the email.
Croquette.
That's what it is. That's like what they call it. I think it comes from like I guess a croquet. I'm not sure,
like but sport?
No, I think like the food. Like there's a
never heard of it.
I think it's a French thing, but
real.
like it's a small.
French?
It's
okay,
exactly,
sure. Yeah,
but it's like a small one. Thus the et. It's
a
croquette,
okay.
Something like that. But they got back to me and they told me that that's what it was.
I love that was someone's job that day.
Yeah,
it was like,
okay.
I've got what's on your plate today? I've got to answer this question. Speaking of answering questions, what is your second book?
My next book is another one, once again, that I read during my college days.
Shout out Emerson. Look, this is an anti-higher education podcast.
No.
You don't need to go to college. You just have podcasts. You have YouTube.
You don't need to go to college.
You don't need to go to college, folks. It's a scam.
You can if you want to. I'll say for me personally, it was really helpful.
Yeah.
But I also am in a tremendous amount of debt.
Yep.
So
there's the whole debt thing.
I do think that there are benefits to doing other things. And I hope that reading books like the books that I read in school and learning about them, analyzing, getting in your communities and talking about them and just trying to educate yourself that might take you where you need to go without having to be thousands in debt like I am.
There's all sorts of different paths.
Absolutely.
And just don't choose the one that's college. That's the official stance of this podcast.
Speaking of paths.
Speaking of paths.
The book that I want to talk about is Grapes of Wrath.
Hell yeah.
And the path that they take is from the Dust Bowl of America all the way to California.
Yeah.
Have you read Grapes of Wrath?
I have seen the movie. I had such a huge reaction.
You did. I was like, oh my God.
And I was like, actually, I read about half of East of Eden. That's about all the Steinbeck I've read.
Okay.
But I liked the movie a lot, and I know kind of politically some of his stances, which I fuck with, as they say.
Fuck with heavy.
So tell me more about The Grapes of Wrath.
The Grapes of Wrath is a novel that follows the Jode family and their...
Incredible name.
Truly.
Let's just pause. Jode. Okay, moving on. The Jode family.
They are traveling across the United States after like living in the Dust Bowl, and it's like during an era of really terrible crops. Lots of like most people are moving west. It's part of like a great migration out west to find like food and land to call your own, and like places that are fertile land, fertile lands. So people are moving out west because like it's getting like the dust storms are getting insane where they are, and like they can't survive out there. People are starving. And it just follows them moving. It follows specifically like I don't know if the main character is Tom. I think the entire family is like who it's about, but like Tom is who you're following a lot of the time, and he's I think the firstborn Jode's son. And he
Sorry, it's never not gonna be funny. I'll do my best. I'll be professional.
He just has gotten back from prison, and he comes to find his family home like abandoned. And he, along with a preacher that he like meets along, he like happens to be who baptized him, which is crazy. He and this preacher like find his family, and then they start their western migration, and they deal with a lot of like meeting other people that are destitute in similar ways that they are, and coming into contact with people who are mistrustful, but just as many people who are willing to help and willing to like give the food off their table, give the like clothes off their back. So it's a really like the story, I think, shows a lot of binaries and how they coexist. So there's a lot of like individualism versus like the community or the group, and how like the selfishness of the individual is dangerous for a community at large, and how like looking within oneself and finding the strength to reach out and to help people that are in need and to work together and to organize. I think that that's like heavily what Steinbeck is trying to talk about. And to circle it back to anger, one of the last binaries. Can you tell like I read the sparkness on this like prior to trying to get here? The last like the binary, the dichotomy is wrath versus meekness. And there's something that you see in the book a lot of are beaten down migrants that are like being taken advantage of, and they're unable to find work that's more than like one of the times they were like being able to collect peaches, and it was like a cent a box.
Oh my God.
It was like that's ludicrous for even that time. Like it was such a tremendous struggle for all of the people living in that time and trying to support themselves and their families. And the quote that I liked the most, I think, when looking back, was how the wives of all of the men were scared watching their husbands and the men in their family be like beaten down and brows bowed and meekness like creeping in, and they were just like unable to fight back. But when they organized and talked to each other and became angry, the women felt reassured. Like they felt calmed by the fact that there was the anger and the fire in the hearts of the men, because it proved that there was like hope to still like change things. That anger can lead to passion, but it can lead to like action.
Yeah.
That anger can lead to action. It's very much like inspiring to me to see something that I think I grew up feeling very negative about. Like anger was a difficult emotion for me to reckon with personally. It's something that like I still struggle with. I'm either not angry at all or completely explosive. Like I've really struggled for a long time to like have any gradient in between of like knowing that like this frustrates me, but let's be like, you know, let's be introspective or let's try and do something, you know, productive with my anger. I really struggled with that. So seeing in this book how wrath and anger could be positive. Could be like a hope and an indicator that there is something to be done. That was just really inspiring for me. Like anger isn't a negative emotion. All of my therapists would tell me it's not negative. There are no negative emotions.
Sure.
It's just something that is, and it can be very hopeful and it can be very like meaningful. Because anger means that you care. You know, like that. It's so
absolutely.
It was a revelation for me. Like when I was younger and I was growing up, like if you care about something, that's why you're getting angry. Like I think I had a different therapist once tell me that any anger that I have is me protecting myself and me being saddened by like the mistreatment I've dealt with.
Yeah.
So that was like almost heartwarming to know that like any rage that I feel is only there because I don't want to be mistreated. I don't want to be harmed or hurt. And that's like I'm getting very off of Grapes of Wrath, but that's
could not care less. This is what it's all about.
That's what it is, though. It's like in this book, you see a tremendous amount of like reckoning with oneself and reckoning with being a smaller part of a larger community. And they talk about how like all men are part of like one, they call it the concept is oversoul by Emerson, actually, by Ralph
no relation. No relation
to my college. Ralph Waldo Emerson had this concept of oversoul, which I believe Steinbeck is
interesting.
Alluding to and borrowing from, with like all the people in the world and in this community are all part of like one being. They are one entity, one soul.
Like consciousness, like is one thing, and each person is just a node within this one thing. Yeah, is that kind of the idea?
If you hurt another, you're hurting yourself. That's the concept. Is like you do unto others essentially, and very much like if others are unhealthy, you will be unhealthy. Like anything that affects the group affects the individual. Yeah. So anytime that there is like anger amidst everyone, it's the desire for everyone to protect what they collectively have. And you can see that in the instances of them organizing, and you know there are instances of like riots within the book where they're like trying to hold on to any semblance of like home that they have because like the fucking cops in this book, awful. And like,
oh man,
reflective,
some things
never change.
Wow.
But like, you know, the cops are trying to raid like the migrant camp that they live at. I think they're called Hoovervilles in the book. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And they like, the people will organize together and collaborate and functionally like they self-regulate. Yeah. And that was what was so cool to see, because that was like the anger taking form, if that makes sense. Like they felt anger at the way that they were being mistreated and oppressed. They organized, that was the action that they took, and then they created communities. And that was the beautiful part, and the many chapters that were in those places were some of like the really positive and the very like enjoying being part of a collective. Yeah. And then they still had to deal with the external forces of like the cops coming and trying to like raid, and it culminated in like the killing of a major character. And that spoilers. Was like, spoilers. This book has been out for quite some time.
Well, some of us haven't read it.
That's true.
I have seen the movie. I've seen the movie, but I saw the movie like 20 years ago. But, yeah.
But so like, it's just such a book that's full of pushing and pulling, and it's unresolved, you know? Like it's the ending is it ends on like a positive note in the sense that like this isn't really a spoiler for the other things that occur. So I think I will talk about this last chapter part, but like
you've been warned.
Minor spoiler. Okay. Major minor spoiler. A character that I haven't mentioned, Rose of Sharon, okay. Actually. I want to say Rose of Sharon because that's how I say the flower. But it's Rose of Sharon is her name for sure. She's pregnant throughout the story and is like traveling west with the Jones. I think she's like a cousin. Okay. And she unfortunately like has a stillbirth at the end of the book. She like, all of the stress of traveling. One lady at one point who's like a religious fanatic came up on her and was just like, you will have a stillborn if you sin. And Rose of Sharon spends the entire book being freaked out the whole time. Yeah. So she feels honestly very immature. She's like young and married, but like still feels very like fraught and struggles with like being anxious all the time. Yeah. So she has this.
What's that like?
she has this stillborn and is obviously very like sad and torn about it. And at the same time, like there's a deluge happening. Like there's a huge storm outside, and they have to like get to higher ground. And they make it to a barn, and in the barn they meet a father and a son, and the son is like, "Please help! My father is starving to death." The father is like on the ground and he's not moving, still barely alive, but like, and the matriarch of the family, Ma, or that's what they call her,
Majo.
Majo.
I remember that from the movie.
Yes, she and Rose of Sharon have like they share a look. And Rose of Sharon, like, goes to the dying man. The rest of the people, I think everybody leaves the room, and she, like, offers her breast to him because she obviously is able, she's, like, lactating from having a child, but she breastfeeds him to, like, save his life. And, like, that's how the book ends, is, like, doing such a monumental kindness, literally giving of yourself, giving of your breast to another person. And that's just like, continuing to give and give despite like being full of wrath, being angered, being oppressed and beaten down. Yeah. I think that was really the message of this book, and also like highly, highly applicable today.
I was literally everything you said. I'm like, I have to read this book because we are everything you just said, we're still dealing with.
It's crazy. It's crazy how it's the exact same shit. It's so moving to me because I think a lot of us grew up, I know I did, feeling very like in America. Let me preface with like this is a highly American take. I think we all like had our own personal like family units, and we felt maybe attached to that, some more so than others. But to a certain extent, like highly individual. And that is prioritized. That's like emphasized in school. It's mythic.
Yeah, it is like the generating driving force of America is individualism. Yeah. It's what the American Revolution, it's don't tread on me. Yeah. It's no taxation without representation. Exactly. Don't touch my shit. Yeah. Is like the engine of America.
Right. For me personally, I didn't question it for a long time. Like, I think listen, I've always been ACAB and I've always been like, be nice to other people. But it didn't sink into me until I started reading like novels like this, where I was like, oh, like if the world is this deeply unkind and you are only acting self-serving, you're not helping. Like, you're no better than those oppressive forces is how I internalized it. There are many reads, but like it made me feel that sadness and feel that anger and feel more inspired and pushed to be more active. Even if like I'm not like on the front line of every protest, even if you don't want to be, like, you can still be active in your communities. You can still, there are still ways to bring positivity and kindness without like, I would say every single person like has the ability to do that without like even stepping out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's so easy to like put a little bit of kindness out into the world, and you're living by virtue of Steinbeck is kind of how I feel.
Yeah. And I think that like when it comes to facing all of the terrible things that are happening in the world, whether it's the rise of fascism, whether it's genocide, whether it's climate change, income inequality, I mean, take your pick. I think that the lack of a better term, the poison of individualism, like infects our vision of what we can actually do.
Yeah.
Because like, I think because those of us, you know, in the West, those of us specifically in America, we have this idea that like the point of my life is to be the hero of my life. It's to be this individual who stands above history, stands out of time, and does something that's incredible.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times that's directed towards entrepreneurialism. You know, sometimes you start a fucking podcast, you know, but like, I think when it comes to like, oh, I need to help. I need to do we have this idea that like, I need to do something that's heroic in an individualistic way that like does something incredible. And then, you know, logically we all know that like, well, me as one person can't do anything. So I think that I'll speak for myself leads to like, you know, paralysis. But I think that's one of the beauties of fiction is reading stories like this that remind you that like it's those little acts of being part of a community. Yeah. And again, it sounds really cheesy to say it, but it's cheesy and it's cliche for a reason. I think that like being part of a community that helps itself and helps each other, like that's the only way that any sort of change can happen.
It's honestly harder. You can fantasize all you want about being the like ultimate hero and doing something big and memorable and like legendary, but it is so much harder in a way to like move past the apathy and embarrassment and shame that I feel like a lot of people in our current day and age, like I don't think it's like just the younger generation. I think that like millennials and older like also deal with this sense of self-isolation and feeling very like disconnected from other people. And if you can get over the embarrassment of reaching, some people don't have this. I'm just saying that I have this.
I do too. Yeah.
If you can get over the embarrassment or the shame of like reaching out to help somebody, it's like so much more rewarding and, in my opinion, heroic, because that's a real thing that you have to do. You can think about like, if I get this opportunity, I'd lay down my life, and maybe you would, but because you don't have to confront that because it's contingent on like a fantasy occurring,
right.
It's not brave to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
It is much braver, in my opinion, to be actively and consistently reaching out and acting in like your community and doing things to just even make somebody's day brighter. Like you buy somebody else a coffee. Like it can be that small. Like I've had several occurrences in the past week that were literally just somebody like saying something nice to me. They were a stranger and they were like, "You have nice energy." And I was like, I don't know. It made me feel part of the community. And that made me earnestly feel more inclined to help others. And like, it's just such a self-perpetuating thing that like, I don't know, it doesn't take much energy to create a positive community. It takes like one person to start it. Yeah. Because then everybody has that momentum to keep giving and keep like, giving forward. What the hell is
paying it forward?
Paying it forward. Yeah. It's like when you feel the ability to pay it forward because somebody paid it forward to you. Yeah. I think that's a lot of what I read between the lines of Grapes of Wrath. It's also about lots of other things. Yeah.
It's about grapes.
That's about grapes. There's one chapter I think about grapes.
Really?
There's literally there are a lot of I wouldn't call them interludes. I forget exactly what they're called, but in between chapters, it steps away from the Joad family and does a lot of like, that's where most of the symbolism of the book is. There's like, early in the book, there's like a tortoise that's like crossing the road and he gets intentionally hit by a car, but survives. Like he like, it takes a while to right himself and like pops his little arms out and like continues on. And Also, I think on the back of that turtle are like seeds that have like adhered themselves to the turtle and are spreading. Like there's symbolism in that. There is the grapes chapter also is about lots of different like rotting fruits and how like the part of it is attached to the actual story where there's tons of fruit being like born by these trees, and some of it is picked, others of it like some of the fruit is let fall, but they won't like allow the migrants to eat it or collect it. They let it rot. That smell permeates, and that's very it's a clear metaphor for like allowing. I mean, it's barely a metaphor. I'm glad we figured that out. We don't do that anymore. Yeah. Oh my God. But like there are so many in-betweens that like you see then directly connect to the next chapter in kind of an abstract way. It's a beautiful piece. Like it's a very well thought out, many metaphors like interspersed with the narrative driven part of it that like brings you in to connect with them and then pulls you back out into the abstract. I think that's what makes this such a good novel, is that it gives you both. You're not just like in a fictional story and you're not living anywhere. You are pulled out to reckon with the concepts. Yeah. So that's why I like it. That sounds amazing. I can't wait to read it. I'm will really like excited. It's so good. And we're going to segue into the third book, but because of the day that it's been, I'm just going to check on the damn camera. So sit tight, everybody. Woo! Oh, all right. Welcome back, everybody. Everything was good. Everything was fine. Yeah. I didn't. We'll see if you even cut that. We'll see. I'll probably just leave it in there. Maybe I'll add a nice little instrumental interlude. We love. I really wish that I knew how to compose music, but I don't. Can learn? I don't, and I can't learn. MJ, what are you talking about? Yes, you can. What are you talking about? I can't. Do you want my? I can't learn how to pirated copy of. Okay, I am cutting that. I'm definitely cutting that. No, huge shout out to Skyler, former coworker, did the music for this. So, that's cool. Yeah, thanks, Skyler. Hell yeah. And I saw him with his instrument the other day. I was wondering. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, cool. That was for this. Wow. That was for all the lovely pieces that were the band-aids for this Frankenstein episode. We're on the third book now. What do you got? Wouldn't it be so funny if it was Frankenstein? Is it? It's not. Okay. My final book is, I wasn't sure if I've prepared this. I didn't really tell Jonathan. I didn't know if I was supposed to tell you ahead of time. Yeah, so I've been experimenting with whether the guests tell me or not. So I went into this blind. Yeah. I went into this blind and and I didn't ask any questions. Yeah, no. Look, this is we're loose. We're goose. We say loosey goosey, but we don't say we are loose and we're goose. Why? What are your thoughts on that? Well, we don't have time. You ever play the Angry Goose game? You should start a gaming channel. But anger again. Yes, exactly. It keeps the theme of this episode. The Angry Goose game is really fun. I'm not going to actually tell you about the game. There's nothing that happens in it except for the fact that. Is this fun in the way of like, hey, Jonathan, come on and play this game? That's like you being a barista. Because no, it's more fun than that. Yeah, real heads know what we're talking about. If you don't know what we're talking about, I'm not gonna give context. It was something we did at Try Guys. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the Angry Goose Where game. Where are we? All the Angry Goose game is it starts with like a short little like it's like a sentence prologue that's just like, it is a beautiful day and you are an angry goose. And then it like zooms down and you're a fucking goose. And all you do is you go piss off everybody. It's like a cute little countryside. Mm-hmm. And you have little objectives where you like go steal the gardener's keys and you go like rip up all the grass. And it's just a fun game. Okay. It's a very cute game. I won't spoil the end for you though. You should play it. There is kind of an ending. Does the goose find a reason to not be angry? No. The goose joins a community, stops being so individualistic. Unfortunately, no. He's still in his wrath era. Okay, good. I love that on to the grapes part. Yeah, he's more wrath. He's less grape. More wrath, more grape. Yeah. My final book. Yes. My final book is like I said, I wasn't sure if we could only do fiction.
Oh, yeah. It can be any sort of book. I could have given more direction on that.
No, I think it was fun if you didn't.
Yeah.
I chose... and this could either be like a great poll or be like so embarrassing for me.
Oh, here we go. High risk, high reward. What do we got?
I read The Art of War in middle school.
Yeah, Sun Tzu. Let's go. Baby. Okay.
Have you read or just know?
I just know the memes.
Okay, just know those memes. Man, I wonder if they ever, if ever our historical figures like are rolling in their graves knowing that they've got like crazy fucking memes about them.
Yeah, oh man, yeah. This is interesting because this is one of those books that again I haven't read it, so who knows what the fuck I'm talking about. But it does seem to be like the people who are really into it are kind of like the worst people. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see what you have to say for yourself. And take it away.
This turns into my apology podcast.
Yeah. We'll keep it rolling. I mean, maybe we will. I don't know.
So going with like the theme of anger, but this will become slightly more of a personal anecdote.
Okay.
Not that I wasn't already toying with that, but like when I was in middle school, and like I said, I was dealing with like feelings that were just big. They're bigger than you are. And I think everybody can relate to that. Like the middle school angst era is kind of a universal, universal thing. But so I was really like struggling with feelings of anger and misplacement and not knowing like how to have a healthy outlet. Like I was just so I felt like I was simmering a lot. And I was able to mostly focus that towards school. Like I was thankful to have like school is a place where I could just be all the time. I was like one of those, I was like a snobby, I wasn't gifted. I wasn't in one of the gifted. I technically wasn't. I was in a lot of advanced classes. Okay. But that's where I like put all my time because it was a place where I could get validation. It was a place where I could feel like a place amongst peers who felt similar to me and enjoyed things in a similar way. But at the same time, it was higher pressure. It was a high pressure place to be in. And if I ever got something wrong or didn't feel as like up on everything as my peers, like I felt it. I felt a lot of shame and a lot of like frustration with myself. The very first time I failed a test. And I think I've only failed like 2 tests in my life. One of them...
Well, the day's young. We're not done yet.
One of them was a fractions test, and it was because fucking my teacher was a huge bitch. And I stand by that. She was awful. I won't drop her name.
Blame the teacher.
She sucked, and she was bad at explaining things. And I eventually had to work around her by like really working with other students to figure out like what the fuck she was ever trying to say. Yep. So anyway... This is why this is an anti-education podcast. Higher education, even lower education. We don't stand by it. I blame her. She fucking... You might actually want to pull this part out, but... okay, all right. It's not a real thing, but it is like deeply embarrassing.
It's definitely staying in. Definitely.
When I was a first year in middle school, and I took this woman's class, it was a math class. I was like a year ahead of standard math. Okay. And I was in there on my first day. She was going around talking to all the tables, and I was like nodding and smiling, and I was like looking at her. I was paying attention, and I don't know if you do this. I think that this is normal. I think that this is so normal.
I can't wait for what you're going to say.
When you're talking to 2 people, you look at one person, and then you look at the other person, and then you look back to the first person. Doesn't matter who's talking. Like, first person's talking, you're like, oh yeah, Like, I will glance to other people, so I'm like continuing to include them. Yeah. And the teacher, was speaking to us, and I like looked at her, and I like looked at the person across from me. I don't think make a weird fucking face or anything. I didn't pull a face. I didn't do anything. I was like nodding and smiling. I swear to God. And she, with her like fake fucking smile, she had like crazy canines. It terrifies me to this day. I hate this woman. She was like, what was that? And I was like, I was listening. And she was like, no, what, like, that little look that you just did. And her eyes didn't, she never fucking blinked. She never blinked. This is terrifying. Terrifying. This is my first day of school. First day of middle school, like my first day. Oh, man. Anyway, she pulled me out into the hallway and like fucking tore me a new one. Like, I was like in tears. I was crying.
Oh my God.
I was like, it was so awful. And I remember like just having the worst fucking day after that.
Aw.
And she and I eventually like came to like begrudgingly understand each other, but I still think she's a horrible person.
Okay.
You don't make a child cry on the first day of
That's pretty
school.
awful. And it's clearly just because of her own insecurity.
Yeah, she's having like a full trip. Anyway, this had nothing to do with, all of this was to talk about how middle school sucked.
Middle school sucks.
Middle school
And that's
sucked.
why we don't like it.
And so that caused me to
Yep.
feel great shame. And so like, you know, those moments, I remember I was talking about this because I failed one of her stupid tests.
Right,
And then
doesn't count.
That one doesn't
Yeah,
count.
yeah.
The other test that I failed was like a mock exam, thank God. But like, I just didn't sleep the night prior. I had terrible sleep due to all of these emotional issues I'm kind of talking about. And I like just couldn't focus. And I was so mad at myself, even though it was a mock exam, I like punched a wall. And I'd
Really?
never done that before. I
Oh my
channeled
God.
my like inner white man and I punched
you
a fucking
put on
wall.
a pair of Oakleys and
But it
some
was
cargo
stupid. I
shorts
punched
and
a
just
brick
went-
wall like an idiot.
I mean, that's hardcore.
That was so stupid.
That is hardcore.
I
Yeah,
punched
you
a
got
brick wall.
Oh my God.
It was the dumbest thing I'd
Did you
done.
break your hand?
I didn't break my hand, but I had like a bloody split knuckle. Anyway, don't do that.
Yeah, you gotta find drywall.
Gotta find drywall.
Gotta find
I was
dry-
at school, so I like
Oh,
didn't want
man.
to break anything.
Man.
Anyway, I was upset, and I clearly had a lot of emotions that I
Yes.
was beginning to reckon with and,
Yeah.
and struggle to regulate. So I had, we had like just a tremendous amount of books in my house. Like
Okay.
I couldn't tell you where The Art of War came from. I think it was my brother's. That's my guess.
It's a very brother
It
coded
is
book.
it super is. I had this and I think The Code of the Samurai, and I read them both at the same time. And so I really was struggling. I was struggling with these big emotions and
Yeah.
feeling like listless and it's sometimes hopeless and like I feel all these massive feelings and they're not going away and I just don't know how to not be upset all the time.
Yeah.
So I really didn't like know where to turn to. Fantasy was like an escape, certainly, but it didn't really address any of my feelings.
Yeah.
Like I could learn things and I could be enchanted by like the perseverance of characters and it helped. It was like alleviating and it was a reprieve for me, but I wasn't able to like apply anything. I can't like, well, I'll go meet my new familiar dragon friend and we'll fly away and everything's gonna be better. Didn't fucking work like that. I just was wistful then. I was just like jealous.
And it's like, God damn, my life sucks.
My life
There's
fucking
no
sucks.
dragons.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I'm like, well, I'm past the age of 12 years old, and that's when everything happens to people. Like anything special, any magic is gonna happen to you by 12 or you're fucked. Like,
Washed up at 13.
yeah, exactly. That's what it feels like. But so I
Could've
was
gone pro.
I was struggling with these emotions and I just purely happenstance. I was just like digging around in my room one day and I picked up The Art of War and I started reading it. And it's not big. It's like it's a thin book. It's 13 essays. And I was weirdly captivated by it. It's not flowery language. It doesn't really, it's like bullet points basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like the main concept of the entire book is to operate with strategy and to approach any conflict in a way to minimize casualties, minimize like personal loss, and be as efficient as possible. I think low key to this day, I'm able to track back like my somewhat obsession with like being efficient to like this book and different books like it that I read. But it was like, it was about how when approaching conflict, and it's obviously like, it exists in the macro. It's talking about war. It's talking about warring.
Yeah.
But you can easily apply tons of these concepts to yourself in any small conflict.
Right.
So it was always about like gathering knowledge, not being reckless, not being, quick to temper or like quick to explode on other people.
Yeah.
And it was just, it taught me like patience in a way and made me feel as though like I was able to take these emotions and work towards something. Like, I think that's really what it kind of did to me, was it created a sense of like serenity, like a sense of peace of like, these emotions are something that I can hone, is kind of what it felt like. Like, I'm tempering my blade to be sharp and to be able and to strategize and to like be able to kind of come out on top of situations. And it taught me like a tremendous amount of foresight, I guess is the best way to put it. But like, I'm able to think multiple steps ahead. And like, was that also my anxiety thinking about every single situation? Certainly there's a part of that, but this just really helped me like put it into a, you know, like a metric or like a
gives you a framework.
Exactly.
Tools to,
It was helpful to utilize, and then to recognize that like the main concept is like, you should be able to win without fighting. And that was maybe one of like the most, like the most prominent and pertainable lessons to me. Because it felt like everything was fighting. It felt like I was around a lot of anger and fighting. It felt like I was beginning to feel like, okay, if everybody's angry, should I always be angry? And realizing that like, that's actually super inefficient.
Yeah.
And I know that that's silly, but it helped it all dissipate. Like, I just was so like, oh, it's actually dumb to be angry. Like, it's not going to help me. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to succeed as much as I could have if I let the anger be my driving force, as opposed to like, you know, acting like a fine general and realizing that I cannot be reckless. I cannot be. I wrote this down. There are like five tenets. There are five tenets to being a.
This will be the social club. Let's fucking go.
These are the faults of a general.
Okay.
And it's recklessness.
Yep.
Cowardice. Having a hasty temper. Having a delicacy of honor, somebody who's quick to shame or feel shame, and an over solicitude.
Interesting.
Of my men.
What does that mean
means,
for the viewers at home?
No,
like, I totally get what it means.
I had to look it up.
Yeah. But like, if anyone's watching along, listening
caring
along.
too much about your men, and I think kind of like micromanaging.
Okay.
I think it's more that than like not giving a fuck about them, because what I get from this book is actually that you have to understand all the people that you work with. That's one of the other episodes, or one of the other episodes. Yeah. And Sun Tzu's podcast.
Sun Tzu would have cleaned up in the podcast game. He was ahead of
a 13 episode miniseries. God, that's so fun.
Wondery presents.
But so he had a full essay that was about like recognizing the different ways that your men could be treated based on like what they do for you. I think all of them a baseline of respect, certainly. But then like interfacing with them in a way that like makes them the most productive. It's essentially like being a good manager. That's kind of like the concept. And so this is my reading. Sun Tzu fanatics tell me if I'm wrong. But I think over solicitude is like being too much of a micromanager, caring too much what they think, perhaps, and like letting them dictate how you manage them, despite the fact that you're the one in charge, you're the one with the foresight. Obviously, it's there are antiquated parts of this book. Don't get me wrong, but
it's pretty old. When was it written?
I think it was like I looked it up. It's like hundreds of years ago.
Okay,
Hang on, I'm actually curious.
I would be shocked if everything aged, perfectly. But I do think
5th century BC.
Okay,
whenever the fuck that was.
That's a little. I can't do math.
I can, but
that
when
teacher kind of fucked it all up.
Yeah, she did. She ruined it for me. Whenever it's like centuries, when you add words to my math, I get messed up.
Words and math.
Words and math's bad. I can do letters in math. I can do like. I was pretty good at calculus. Okay. Algebra and calculus.
Okay. I'm MJ. I was good at calculus.
I got a fucking 5 on both of my AP exams.
Well, like you know this. You know the stance this podcast has on all that shit. So, do you think Sun Tzu would have thought that a Cheeto was a chip?
I think he would have been fucking smart enough to keep his mouth shut.
Yes.
Around me.
Yep. And
that's the social clip.
MJ, these were incredible books.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing them in.
Absolutely.
These books, from what you've explained, it's like finding ways to channel anger in like constructive ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's a conversation that, we need to have right now, especially people on the left, of just
absolutely.
like how do we take like all of the anger that we all have at what's happening right now and like point it towards things that will make a difference,
Yeah.
And we're unfortunately out of time, so we can't really have that conversation here. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts?
I think to speak to your final thought just then is that we, as especially Western society, feel a lot of shame and discomfort with anger. And I still do, and it's something that I work with myself about every day, and I attempt to question, why do I feel angry? Why am I ashamed that I feel this anger? What is the reasoning? And everybody's going to have different, answers to those personal questions. But I think that it's really meaningful and will help you grow if you have those conversations with yourself and recognize that there are no negative emotions. Anger is not bad, and it's scary to feel sometimes, certainly, but it is so important.
Yeah.
It is something that protects you. It's something that spurns you forward. I think that anger is something that we have sort of lost.
Yeah.
I think that it's something that we have all been so discouraged from feeling, honestly, as a way to keep us in line. Read Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
But it's something that I really encourage you to think about when it comes to yourself and how you interact with other people. And, the people that you love will love you even if you're angry, and if you, if you exhibit it in healthy and correct ways, but like,
don't punch a brick wall.
Don't punch a brick wall.
If it's
like
drywall, maybe don't not brick.
But learn how to live with your healthy anger.
Yeah.
I think that's something I would have told myself.
Yeah. Well, before you go, I have a gift for you.
You have a gift for me?
Yeah, and
I didn't bring a gift for you.
Yeah, you brought a gift. You brought a gift. I was supposed to show you this at the beginning, and I forgot, but that's just the kind of day that it's been.
Do I open it on camera?
Let's do it. Yeah. So this is a book that
so much twine. This twine is tight.
The twine's a new thing. This is the first time with the twine. And wow, the strength.
That's the art of war.
That's the art of war. And I'm curious. Tonally, I would say it's different than the books that you brought in.
Okay.
But I do think you're still going to enjoy it. So this is Slow Days and Fast Company by Eve Babbage.
Ooh.
Have you ever read any of her stuff?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So she often gets like lumped into the same conversation with Joan Didion, which I think is unfair. I think Joan Didion's a great writer, but she was living and working in LA around the same time and writing about LA.
Oh, cool.
And so this is a collection of essays kind of specifically about Los Angeles. And I think it's so fun. It's so delicious. There's so much gossip. And kind of sounds, well, not similar, but maybe a little similar to what you're saying about Grapes of Wrath, where like in between the essays, she has some kind of interstitial content. God, fucking kill me.
Fucking content pill this guy.
I'm in too deep, everyone. But she this book is structured as if she's like writing it to her lover, and so
cool.
in between,
I love
so she gives like a little preface to each essay addressed to this like unseen person.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat.
But it's really fun. Like there's an essay about going to Palm Springs. There's one about
that's exciting.
Going to a Dodgers game. Like it's just, I think it's great for anyone who lives in Los Angeles. I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm excited to read this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming here for a very chaotic, but I'll speak for myself at least, a very fun episode.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have anything to plug?
I do. You can find me every Wednesday. I'm streaming on Twitch. You can find me at MissJoy99. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's Miss_Joy99 because I couldn't get my fucking name.
Look, I get it. I know how it goes.
There's somebody with my name on Instagram, like my Christian name, Moira Joy.
Moira Joy. Oh, yeah, that's right. If you stuck around to the end, you found out what the MJ stands
Surprise.
for.
Somebody's got my fucking name, and I'm like,
not for long.
It's like Moira Joy House. It's like some like older woman, and it's like, I think her name is Moira, and the house is like Joy House or like something. I don't understand the lore here. I've been trying to get my fucking name for a while. Anyway, please follow me there. And there is a chance. I don't want to.
Ooh.
Well, no, I shouldn't say anything because I don't know if it's ever coming back. It's on like permanent hiatus, but maybe there will be more Die Guys. So keep your eye, which Jonathan has been on prior. But if I do more D&D stuff, follow me on the other places and you'll hear about it.
And you'll hear about it. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, MJ.
Thank you, Jonathan, for having me.
And thank you all for listening and watching. And as always, keep reading.